Well guys, it looks like we might finally have our first real report about Nintendo's next-gen system, or the Nintendo Switch 2, as this was posted just yesterday from a very reputable video game website known as the Video Games Chronicle. And the reason why I'm putting more credibility into this compared to the other stuff that I've talked about is because these are people who have actually worked with Nintendo. They get sent review copies, they get sent to preview events and things like that, and once they've posted this information that they heard about yesterday, there were other huge video game websites like Eurogamer and IGN who also get millions of clicks every day, and they also followed up with more information that they have according to their sources. And so that's why this has more importance than like a random Chinese article or random little Timmy on his blog talking about what he's heard with the Nintendo Switch 2. So because these are coming from big video game websites, there is more to kind of take a look at with the information that they're sharing. Now, I'm not going to sit here and read through the entire article with you guys. I already did that, and I put all of the main points together in this video, so you can see at the bottom I've got like little sections here for all the different topics that we're going to be talking about, so you can click ahead through the video chapters and go through something specific, but I'm going to go through everything right here, so we're just going to be looking at all the information that we have so far. So the first thing that we've got here is that key partners already have their dev kits ahead of a planned launch, and so this definitely makes a lot of sense. Everybody has been saying that the next Nintendo system is going to be coming out at some point next year in 2024, so I'm sure that the developers that work closely with Nintendo, like Monolith Soft with Xenoblade, Intelligent Systems with Fire Emblem, Game Freak with Pokemon, people like that I'm sure have already had their Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits for a while. They might have even gotten them like last year, so that doesn't really surprise me. What I am wondering about though is if third-party developers also have them too. Like, does this mean that like people like Square Enix and Capcom and Ubisoft, do they have them already too? It's very possible that that could be the case as well. So yeah, it really doesn't surprise me that a lot of these developers already have their dev kits. Now, the release date for Nintendo's next-gen system has pretty much been all over the place, as I just made a video a few days ago talking about this Chinese finance analyst firm that said that they've heard that the next Nintendo system is going to be coming out during the first half of 2024, but in this article that I'm talking about right now, they're saying that they've had sources tell them that Nintendo is targeting for a second half of 2024, and this is so that there's enough stock of the systems day one, so that pretty much anybody who is interested in buying one is able to get one, and Nintendo doesn't want to replicate the same thing that happened with the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, where when those came out in 2020, it was extremely difficult to get one and people were scalping them and selling them for like $800, $900, so they don't want that to happen. And honestly, I feel like this makes the most sense too. I know some people would like to have the Nintendo Switch 2 come out earlier, like how the Switch came out in March, but the thing about that was the Switch pretty much had to come out in March because Nintendo was losing money because the Wii U was just not doing that well, so they pretty much released that system as soon as it was ready to hit store shelves, and that's why that system came out early in March, because it's definitely not something common that Nintendo does all the time. And that's why they pretty much just released that system. Like, there were so many things about the Switch that weren't even completed when it first came out. Like, you weren't even able to capture videos of any of the games that you were playing. That was an update that came out later, and day one you could only take some screenshots. So there were definitely things that were missing, like even the Bluetooth compatibility with like Bluetooth headphones. That was a whole other software update that came out later. So it seems like the system with the Switch was definitely released a little bit ahead of time before everything was ready, because Nintendo pretty much just needed to get it out there. But with the Switch right now, it's already selling still pretty well. People are still buying games and there's still stuff coming out for it. So Nintendo isn't really in a rush to get the next system out right away. So they can definitely wait for the more conventional holiday time, which is probably what they're going to do, and release it around like November. Also, the Nintendo president did say in a financial meeting that they don't have any new hardware planned for this fiscal year, and that's going to be ending at the end of March in 2024. So if anything, that makes more sense to me now that there isn't going to be a new system or a launch for anything by that time, and we're probably not going to hear about anything until after the fiscal year is over. So after March is over, like next year in 2024, moving into April and May, in the June maybe we'll get like the actual reveal for the next Nintendo system, and then it's going to come out towards the end of the year in the holiday. Now, when it comes to the actual design of the hardware itself, it does mention here that the system is going to be able to go into a portable mode like with the Nintendo Switch, so this means that it's probably still going to be a hybrid-like system like how we currently have it, so that is very good news. I know a lot of people do like to play their Switch in handheld mode. I pretty much always play my Switch docked, but it is nice that the option is still going to be there to have it as a hybrid. I know that some people thought that Nintendo might try to do something completely different for their next system because they pretty much always like to have like a wacky twist or gimmick or something like that, but honestly this time around with the Switch, I feel like Nintendo has pretty much carved out their niche and exactly what works for them, so they don't really need to try to have another system with some crazy gimmick or anything like that, and realize that pretty much everybody just wants a Nintendo Switch again, but with more power so that it can play some better games. Now this next part is a little bit disappointing because it says here that multiple sources have told them that the next Nintendo system is going to be using an LCD panel instead of an OLED panel to cut down on costs. So obviously the Nintendo Switch OLED that we have right now has an OLED screen, and if you've ever seen an OLED Switch compared to like a normal Switch, the OLED one just looks way better in terms of how the colors look on it and everything. It's very pretty. So the fact that Nintendo is going to be taking a step back and going to like the more washed out colors LCD screen again, it is a little bit disappointing, but it says here that the reason that they're doing this is to cut down on cost. So I guess if the system is going to be having, a better CPU, a better GPU, more memory and stuff like that, then something is going to have to kind of take the bullet to basically get sacrificed. And I guess they're doing that with the screen. So instead of an OLED screen, you're going to be going back to an LCD screen, which that is acceptable, because something else like the battery getting suffered instead, where like you get a smaller battery and has less battery life. I don't want that to happen. So I guess I'll take an LCD screen instead of an OLED screen. And like I said, I play my Switch mostly docked anyway, so if you have an OLED TV, then you pretty much got an OLED screen anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it does kind of suck that if you do play it a lot in handheld, if you have a Switch OLED right now, it's definitely going to be a step back in terms of how the screen looks. Now, I have seen some people say that maybe Nintendo is going to have multiple configurations for the Switch 2, where maybe like the most common baseline model for the Switch 2 is going to have an LCD screen, and it's going to come out for like $400, but then there's going to be like a deluxe model or something where maybe that one has more memory, it comes with like a game or some stands or something like that, and that one's going to have an OLED screen, and that one will be like $450, so that'll be targeted more towards like the deluxe and kind of hardcore audience. I don't think that Nintendo's really going to do that. I mean, it seems like pretty much whenever they launch any system, it just comes in one box, and it's like that's the standard version that they have for the system. Sometimes they like to do different configurations with like the colors and stuff, like the 3DS comes in different colors, and then obviously even with the Nintendo Switch, they had like one come out with just the default gray Joy-Cons and another one that came out with like the neon red and neon blue ones, but it was still the same exact Nintendo Switch. They did kind of something like this with the Wii U as well, where you had like the basic Wii U, which was the white one, and that one had 8 gigabytes of memory, and it was just like the basic one. And then they had like the deluxe Wii U, which came out with like the 32 gigabytes of memory. It was in black, and it came with Nintendo Land, but the screens for everything and the power and all of that was the exact same. So I don't really think that Nintendo is going to be doing that. They might have different configurations for like the Joy-Cons and maybe the amount of storage that it has, but I'm not expecting like an OLED screen version and like an LCD screen version. If anything, they might try to do exactly what they did with the current Nintendo Switch, where that one came with an LCD screen in 2017, and then 4 years later we got the Switch OLED in 2021, which was like the mid-generation refresh. So they might try to do something similar to that, where like next year we're all going to get like the LCD basic Switch 2, and then 4 years later in 2028 they'll have like the mid-generation refresh, and that one will be like a Switch 2 with an OLED panel. They could try to do something similar to that. Now, some really good news about this system is that there is going to be a physical media slot, so you are once again still going to be able to buy physical games, which is really, really nice, because I know that it seems like we're kind of moving towards like that all digital future now, where everything is starting to release kind of only digital too, and they're starting to not really make physical games that much anymore, which is kind of a shame, because I really love physical games. I pretty much buy every major release that I get in terms of like the physical disc or like the cartridge, and I love putting it into my system and stuff. So if we really do move towards like an all digital future, inevitably, where everything is just going to be downloaded to your games and your systems and all of that, then it does kind of suck. But it seems like Nintendo is always kind of behind when it comes to stuff like this, so the next Nintendo generation is still going to have physical media, which is really good. Now, the most important thing that everybody talks about when talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 is it going to be backwards compatible with Nintendo Switch games? And looking at this article, it does say here that they don't have confirmation like 100% if it is going to be backwards compatible or if it isn't going to be, but it seems like from what their sources have told them, they've heard that some third parties were actually saying that they shouldn't have backwards compatibility and it would make it harder for them to sell their games. So it does sound a little bit kind of weird, because why would they be saying that? To me, it really kind of sounds like an excuse to try to sell definitive versions and remasters of their games again, so it sounds kind of dumb, and I really feel like that having backwards compatibility wouldn't hurt third parties in any way. We've seen this with like the PlayStation 5. It's backwards compatible with the PS4, and the PS5 is doing extremely well. They actually just announced a couple days ago that it passed 40 million units sold, so it's doing really well, so I don't think that backwards compatibility would hurt third parties, and Nintendo themselves have already expressed a lot of kind of interest in doing it, because pretty much whenever Nintendo's president, Mr. Shintaro Furukawa, is talking about next gen, he always explains how it's very important for them to convert as many of their 100 million plus Switch users that they have right now over to the next system. And honestly, if it is backwards compatible, telling everyone that you can buy the next Nintendo system, be able to play even better Nintendo games, and not have to say goodbye to your existing Switch games would honestly be an amazing way to do it. And honestly, if you guys want my thoughts on this, I think that the next Nintendo system is definitely going to be backwards compatible, because if you're expecting me to believe that Nintendo just released a Game of the Year contending Zelda title with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, this really cool looking Super Mario Bros. Wonder game, this really interesting Princess Peach focused game, and all these other games that we have coming, only for them to not work on the next Nintendo system, which comes out just a couple of months later, it makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, I'm definitely expecting the next Nintendo system to be backwards compatible, because I'm sure there's going to be an incentive for you to still be able to want to play Tears of the Kingdom and Super Mario Wonder and all these types of games on that next Nintendo system. But yeah, that is pretty much all the information that we have right now about Nintendo's next generation system, and an actual report from like a big publication instead of just like random rumors and things that we've been hearing. So it is nice to have a pretty big source actually telling us this type of stuff. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button, and also subscribe to the channel, as well as I'm going to be having more videos talking about Nintendo's next system as the information is coming out. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about all of this as well. What do you guys think about all this information regarding the Nintendo Switch 2? Is there anything that you guys would like to see? What are you guys really interested about? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. Go follow me on Twitter at @Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros. And Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.